And I went to go skiing with my mom, and my mom is just an incredible skier. And we were in Mammoth, California, and we were up on the cornice. We take the gondola up on the cornice, and the cornice, for those that don't know, it's this really steep double X black diamond, and you have to jump off a ledge that's like 10 feet onto vertical terrain, and it's gnarly. I was a little kid doing this, and my mother thought it was a good idea to bring it up. Mainly, I kind of wanted a little bit of the clout and to push myself. But she took me up there, and the wind was just howling. And I remember my mom put her skis on, and I was about to complain about the situation. No one else was up there with us, and all of a sudden, I lose her off the top, and she already started skiing. Oh my gosh, man! I was screaming. I was swearing as a kid to my mom. I'm like, oh my God. And I said it, and I was so mad at her. I was fuming.
This is the Men Refined podcast.
Welcome to the Men Refined podcast. In the studio, Mr. Ad Vogele. How's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing as good as I can, I guess.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think when you hear that somebody's strong, talking about a man? Let's say, hey, look, Johnny's a strong man. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is like the ideal that I have in my image. Or in my mind, in my image, yeah, I'm the representation of this image. No, I'm like far from it. So it's almost like the opposite of how I am. So when I think of like, Johnny is a strong man. I think of a guy that's like totally cool and collected in his thoughts. He doesn't respond, rashly to certain circumstances around him. He's easily self-controlled, right? And then he probably has some serious biceps and maybe some pectoral muscles, and he can bench press, probably his weight.
So you picture...
And he's super handsome, and he's a guy that I'm totally not.
So you will picture somebody, big biceps, 6'2", 6'3", a good, big-looking man, maybe with long hair or short hair? Beard? No beard.
I don't know, dude.
We're talking, because
like a guy that's
I want to go.
Like I think long hair would probably get in his way of battle. The last thing you want to do, like when you're going into battle or like you're doing something, have your ponytail like get in your way or have your hair go in your eyes and obstruct your vision, right? That's what I'm like. So I'm thinking like if you're a warrior, you probably shouldn't have long hair. Get it caught into something, right?
Do you think that warriors back in the day? In the early 3rd, 4th, 5th century, did they have long hair? Did they have a barbershop close by?
Dude, I don't know. I think.
What do you think?
If I were them, I wouldn't, because you see how like women fight in these videos, these viral videos. They go for the hair, dude.
Well, yeah, but you know why, right?
Because
why do they go for the hair?
Yeah, because you can control the head. And then they can yank him down the ground.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But hey, dude, wouldn't you do that? Like if some dude had like this really nice ponytail, like something to grab onto, what I would do is I like grab that ponytail, yank his head backwards, throat punch, and
I think in a fight,
take him out, right?
Anything goes. Anything goes in a fight, right? So you're gonna do what you can't.
So I would say
to defend yourself.
I would say a strong man, like, because in my eyes, a strong man is wise. I don't think a strong man would have a long hair. Mainly because he knows, like, dude, some guy can grab that and pull my head back and throat punch me.
That's good.
Yeah, right? That's good. Right? Yeah, because a strong man is also wise, I think.
What about a beard?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
You know why?
Because beards are manly.
Well, why are they manly? Like, why?
I don't know.
I think it's because...
the roughness of it?
Well, I think because shaving your face, is it takes too much time.
Okay.
And we got other things to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And God allowed hair to grow on my face. I was like, why? Let's just let this grow. I'll cut it down, because if it gets too long, it gets in the way, dude. Like you're drinking your coffee, then your beard dips in your coffee. Then beards don't smell very good, man.
Yeah, I like to.
You don't want it in your coffee.
You mean the beard?
Your beard. You don't want your beard in your coffee.
How do you?
Like, dude, I'm drinking this, and then all of a sudden my beard goes in my coffee. I'm like, now I got a wet beard. And it's super uncomfortable. Then I've got a stinky coffee now, and my beard smells like coffee. It's a mess.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I had 4 inches, almost 5 inches on my beard, very recently. But
No one's perfect.
it was that's it. 4 5 inches. I think it was just the top, and I will call it probably was 4. But to get in your, I guess it wasn't long enough at this point. 4 inches, it wasn't long enough. Who
Hey,
knows?
listen, that's a whole nother podcast, man.
So I wanna read. I want you to read chapter 6 from the book of Ephesians, verse 10. Will you read that
Yes.
for us, please?
And I think a strong man is well educated as well and should know how to
Oh, yes.
how to read.
Oh,
so do you
yes.
just want me to read verse 10? Is that it?
Yeah, let's read verse 10.
Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might.
Paul introduces this section to spiritual warfare in life, in the Christian life. And we're in it. We're in a major spiritual warfare. And we live, as we live a Christian life and trying to live a spiritual life, a holy life, and be gentle and lowly in our walk with Christ. Paul begins this section by saying, be strong, right? And I love...
No, you said be strong in the Lord.
Correct. He said, but he says be strong. Mm-hmm. In the Lord, he refers to the Lord Jesus Christ, and in his strength and might. I love this triumph of 3 strong words: strong, strength, his might. Strong, strength, and might, right? Because you and I are inherently weak by ourselves. Mm-hmm. I love that John 15:5, it's part of, you can't do nothing of any eternal lasting value, because we have to be strong in the Lord. So we have to abide by the Lord Jesus Christ himself, but it's nothing out of ourselves. His strength comes from him dying in the cross, paying what we were supposed to pay. All that sin was upon Christ. Now we're strong because he was strong. Culturally, this has been one of those verses that people sometimes don't understand, because we trying to be seen socially, culturally, as strong men. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't. Also, we should be strong, physically strong. We should be able to exercise to keep our bodies healthy enough, so when it's needed, we can be strong, and we can be protectors, and we can be warriors. But also, it's not just coming from us as a selfish indulgent, but from God himself.
But isn't it amazing? Like one thing that I love to watch on YouTube is like when these cocky guys start to like showboat before the fight, and they start to like present themselves in such a macho and manly way, and they start taunting their opponent. And then what I love is like you watch the fight and they get knocked out, and they get embarrassed. Like I love that. I love when the guy,
and it's the word, right? It's the words. They have so much weight and power, and they mess with your brain.
Well, there's so many illustrations of this, right? So okay, first off, let's go back to King David, right, and then Goliath. So Goliath and his brothers, right, are representations of what the world would say is strong. And and the thing is, they were strong, and they were of the line of the Nephilim, right? So they're giant people. They're strong. They command a presence. They look scary, right? They look like a hero, right?
Who was Goliath?
Goliath was a Philistine. Right, but
He was
the hero for the Philistines, right?
He was. But I was asking mainly, who was Goliath? Where did he came from? Was he a mix between the bad angels and humans?
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a lot of that in the scripture that people don't talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So
right?
Goliath is of the line of the Nephilim, right? So back in Genesis, it says that the sons of God, right? So we know that the sons of God, like they're B'nai Elohim, right? These are angels, right? Because they are direct descendants of God.
Correct.
Just like Adam is a direct descendant of God.
Correct.
We are not direct descendants of God. We are
No,
direct
we're
descendants
descendants from Adam.
right? So, so the angels found the sons of man or the daughters of man very attractive and appealing in their eyes. And they went down, and these are fallen angels, and they married them, right? And they had children with these women, and these are what are called Nephilim, right? They're giants. They're larger than life. And I think when you look at other mythologies, you can say, hey, maybe Hercules did actually exist, right? Maybe he was a Nephilim. Right, and these angels, these fallen angels, present themselves to the Greeks as gods. Right? Why wouldn't they? And then getting the mankind to worship them. So maybe these people did exist, right? But so Goliath and his brothers were descendants of Nephilim, right? And that's why they're huge and they're and they're warriors. But so that is the idea that the world has of what's manly, what is powerful, what is strong, what I want to be behind, right? And what I want to be. But then you have little tiny David, right, who comes and he knows that God is with him, and if he is with God, and if God is with him,
nobody can be against him.
Nobody can be against him. So every Israelite was terrified of the Philistines, especially of these brothers. And even Saul was like, yeah, I'm not going to fight this guy. And so David comes up with his sling, and he says, I'll fight him. I'll represent my people, right? And so he puts on the armor, and it's cumbersome. It's uncomfortable. He's not nimble anymore. He actually can't do what God has made him to do.
He had to take it off.
He had to take it off because he knew that the Lord was with him, right? The Lord had made him an incredible shepherd.
Yes.
Right. And the Lord had prepared him with this sling because, David has, killed lions and bears and all other sorts of threats to his herd or to his livestock, right? With this sling. So the Lord has already prepared him to be precise. And so he walks up and he grabs how many stones? Right? 3 stones, right? From the water. And he puts them in his hand, and he puts one in the sling, and he has the other 2 just for the brothers, right? Just in case. And he whips it around, and he slings it into in between Goliath's eyes, right? And then he drops down. Then he picks up his sword and he chops off his head. And then, oh my gosh, look at this! It's amazing.
So back to strength.
Right.
If you think about it, how much strength had David when he was facing these massive men, right? This monster. It wasn't much.
Well, no, hold on.
I think his strength was more. He had
faith.
He was faith.
He had faith.
So his strength was his faith, and also he was smart.
Oh my gosh!
He knew what he was doing. He knew that this piece of rock hit in the right place of somebody.
Well, come on. Okay, yes. And then how much was that rock guided by the Holy Spirit?
Right.
Right.
Of course.
And so he had faith, but he had faith in God's strength. Right, so he had confidence not in himself, not in his own flesh, because he's small.
No,
right,
of course.
But he had confidence in Christ, or I would say in Christ, because he was very messianically hopeful for Messiah.
Absolutely.
He had faith in his Creator, that he was with him, right? That he was going to be strong enough to take on this big giant guy, right? So he had faith in the strength of God, and he used that, and then he had faith that the Lord will guide that rock to where it needs to be, right? And I think as men, I think that confidence in the Lord, that's strong, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, man, that dude, his confidence in the Lord was on point, and that's what being manly is. Because that dude that was dressed all scary and that he fell, right? But going back to now, how do men present themselves today, right? And what's attractive. And then who do we put up on pedestals? It's just funny how dudes present themselves in certain ways. You're like, dude, you're not fooling anyone. Have you ever been to a Renaissance festival?
No.
Okay, down in Larkspur, I went to one this summer, and is exactly how you would expect it. People dressed up as like goblins and Vikings and fairies and all these weird things, and it was this interesting people watching. But it's so funny to me as you see these dudes and they're like wearing kilts, or they have like these warrior Viking face paint on, and they're like posturing themselves like some sort of warrior. You're like, and it's amazing because I think they actually feel like they're fooling people. Like, look at me, I'm such a man. I command this presence. I'm a warrior. I'm like, no, dude, you're LARPing right now.
How about we just bring one of those time machines, put it in there, move these guys back to that era, and see
like,
how
dude,
much they're gonna be able to stand firm.
Like, bro, you're not fooling anyone, man. You're at a Renaissance festival where you can have turkey leg, you can have some cotton candy, some popcorn, you can see other certain things. Like, you are not a Viking.
There's so many weak men nowadays, and I think as this verse says, be strong in the Lord. This I think remind us that we cannot be weak in the battlefield. We're gonna be pushed around. We have to be strong in the Lord and strong in our conviction, in our convictions, strong in our stance, in our commitment, in resolve, in determination, strong in the Lord, in the strength of His might. I think we have that battle for godliness and impurity, that we cannot remain strong in our own strength because, He says that we are stronger because He's in us, and He that is in you is greater than that is in the world.
What does Jesus say in His Beatitudes,
so important
right?
to understand.
It's the most important. That's why, like, the Sermon on the Mount is the greatest sermon ever, right? And we just always have to re-reference that. We always have to reference that. Because what does Jesus say? He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they'll inherit the kingdom of heaven." Right? Well, why is that? Well, what does poor in spirit mean? It means that you're weak, right? And that you can't
in spirit.
In spirit.
In spirit. We're not talking about physically weak.
But here's the thing: in spirit, you're more spirit than you are body, right? So when you are poor in spirit, then you give the Lord room to fill up that space, right, and strengthen you, right, But when you were rich in your spirit, when you're strong in your own spirit, you're these dudes at this Renaissance festival that are pretending to be Vikings, and they look ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, I guess if they're in a but when you have,
you mean strong in their spirit, not in the spirit of God.
No, they're strong in their own spirit,
correct?
Right? They're in their own spirit. But it's like, okay, but then there's more subtle things, right? What are some other facades that men put on besides the armor of God, right? What are some other facades for them to appear to be manly, right? And then what is actually manly that God has already given us? What do you think? I think one criticism that a lot of people have towards the overly macho man is a huge truck, right? And the need to have a big truck and lift it and then say, oh, that guy must be compensating for something, right? Right? No,
it could be.
Yeah, and it could be. But here's the thing. So God gave us a tool that we're born with, right? Right? No pun intended, or maybe a pun intended. Sure. But God gave us the desire as men to use the tool that He gave us in the most efficient and productive way possible, right? So let's say if you have a truck and it's your tool, then great. Yeah, that's pretty manly and it works for you. Mm-hmm. But if you're just driving that truck, what are you pulling? Right. What are you putting in the bed of that truck? I mean, are you just having that truck just because you want to put on the facade of being a man?
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Okay, but then also, so I drive a truck mainly because I pull stuff and I load stuff. It's a tool. It's a tool. It's a big giant toolbox for me, and I love my truck.
And we are in northern Colorado, so if you don't have a truck, a 4x4, you're gonna be in big trouble.
Having an all-wheel drive vehicle,
right?
You'll be in trouble.
You need something.
But
like
also,
that.
guess what? Also, I drive a minivan. Oh no, bro. So. And let me defend this.
I don't want to talk about minivans.
No, we're going to talk about it. You know why? Because that's a tool.
Move along.
Bro, I got to talk about this because you're criticizing, and I brought it up just because I know you look down on it, right? Because you are one of these guys that has, like, oh my gosh, I can't drive a minivan because that doesn't look manly. Dude, it's a tool. Because what did God make me? He made me
minivan?
He made me a. Yeah. No, I got a really cool one. But no, God made me.
Your minivan is half electric and half gas, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
something like that.
It's like a spaceship.
Something like that. It's like a spaceship.
It's one of those brand new Toyota.
It's one of those Tesla spaceship. If Tesla is listening, yeah, we can take collaborations and stuff. You can. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going with your minivan. I'm trying to change the minivan conversation here.
Then I'm about to prove a point to you, and I'm going to convert you over to the minivan. But no, you don't. There's no need for a minivan
there's
for you.
There's no need for me.
No, but there is for me. But so here's the thing: God made me a husband.
Yeah.
And He made me a father, right?
Right.
How do you transport all these people that are in my house?
Yeah, I get
the most efficient way.
Yeah.
Right. It's called a minivan. So I'm using a tool, right, to gather my family together.
Yeah.
And to transport them. Now, do I have my wife drive me? No, dude. I serve my wife. I'm sorry, but I look down on men who have their wives drive them around. It's like, dude, can I say this on your? Those guys need to check the skin between their legs.
Unless you are unable.
Oh, okay, yes. Unless you're unable.
Let's put it out there.
First off, if you have the ability,
there are many men that they're not able to drive for X reasons, and sometimes you know what? That's about serving.
No,
now
exactly.
The wife is serving their husband,
and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so here's the thing. I shouldn't look down, but if I know you,
of course, yeah.
I grill my son.
If you judge me,
I grill my son.
If you know me, you're gonna judge me.
So whenever my son calls me and he's with his wife, and I said, "Aiden, are you driving?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" Because here's the thing: as men, if you have the ability to drive, right? Let's just preface it with that. Us transporting and chaperoning our family and our wives and guiding them, that's a very gentlemanly thing to do. That's being a gentleman. Right, and say I'm leading my family, I'm guiding them, I'm steering the ship for my family where we're going. It's an act of service.
Absolutely. I mean, you're taking full ownership of the drive. Your wife does not have to worry about it. She just need to enjoy the ride and know that she's being served, she's being protected, and she's being directed.
But I think
that's a beautiful thing. And women love that.
Yeah, they should.
Women,
they should love it.
Love that.
But
find me a woman that deep inside does not love.
Oh my gosh! And then
to be served by a man.
Also, the man gets the gas for the wife. Right? Women hate getting gas. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? But you bring up a really good point, man. It's like if you have the ability to, right? Sometimes you're not able. Mm-hmm. Does that make you less of a man if you're not able? No.
Not at all.
No, sometimes God limits your ability to do something, right? And you have to humble yourself and depend on other people. So part of that, I think that is also very manly, is to be able to humble yourself and ditch your pride and let that happen. I think that's also very manly, is to be able to humble yourself.
And it takes a lot.
It does, man.
It takes a lot. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be weak when you do. On the contrary, it takes a lot of a man to humble himself and depend on somebody else for certain things. You have to humble yourself. There's a lot of men that don't even like to ask for favors from nobody, because they will seem to think that if you ask somebody for a favor, that means that you're not capable yourself to do that very thing that you're asking for help, right?
Well, then being able to receive a gift, right? I think this goes on both, like men and women, the ability to receive a gift. But I think men are more prideful
Yeah.
And it goes to that point where you're saying like being able to get help from another man.
But it's understanding where that comes from, right? I'm Hispanic. I have some Italian in my blood, so we tend to be very, macho, idealistic, self-sufficient,
Pretty
right?
boys.
We could pretty much do everything ourselves, right? But it is a beautiful place also to understand and know our place. And early in my 20s, late in my 20s probably, I realized that it is so good to have people around you that can help you with the stuff that you're not good at, or that can teach you to get there, right? Or they can teach you traits and the tools that you need to get there if you're able to get there, right? I mean, if you need to move a refrigerator, do it on your own. Many stuff. First of all, you're gonna injure yourself. One, two.
You're not proving anything, dude.
Nothing.
Right?
So how about you find two dudes?
You're proving that you're dumb.
Yeah, find two dudes. Find two guys that can help you do that, and then just get it done. Get it done
it's also,
in a way that nobody gets injured. So a lot of men, they just don't want to ask
it's a pride
for
thing.
help.
They want to do everything themselves, right? And and then what happens is they overwork themselves. And the Lord says very clearly, do not overwork yourself to become rich, right? They think that they're saving money or whatnot. But, very early on in my business ownership, the Lord said, you know what? Let someone else be employed. Because I was trying to do everything myself, right? Mainly because I was being cheap, possibly. I wanted to get my hands in. There's some good things why I was doing everything as well, is because I wanted to experience those aspects of my business. So when I do hire people to do those tasks, I can actually comment from a place of experience, right? Well, there's people that decide to do all their home maintenance themselves. I mean, and that's fine if you're able to do it, and if you have the time, then God bless you, go do it. But it's okay to say, you know what, I screwed up on this, plumbing, and I need a plumber, or I screwed up on this with electrical,
absolutely.
and I need to bring a dude in to fix my mistake. Because I don't know about you, but I know just enough to be dangerous with certain things, and I'm on the phone. I'm a phone jockey most of the time with my business. I'm on meetings. I'm just directing people. I talk, like, my job is to activate people and to get them to do the work. And I'm at this stage where I'm directing. I'm activating. And
that's Grace. She's probably seeing some.
She sees a squirrel
somewhere in the trees.
But dude, but there comes a part of a man's life where he needs to step down and hand over the reins to someone else. And I think that's also very manly. There's different stages of a man's existence of being a man. And one of those stages is understanding how to direct people to pick up the reins or do the task. And but where I was going before is, like, I do like to sometimes do the manual labor. I do like to replace an outlet, or there was a time where I had a kick of putting new outlets, because I learned how to put a new electrical box into, and then drop the wiring down and
inside the drywall
and install a new outlet.
That's some stuff that is good for your brain, man.
No, it's just good for my soul. It's good for our soul as men to
it is mentally good to do this kind of stuff with your hands, because
exactly.
How many of us are always glued to the computer? I'm one of them. I'm just using my fingers for everything, man. And sometimes I need to step away from the computer, probably go to the kitchen, do some cooking for the family. It's just so good for my brain, man.
Yeah, right.
Or start fixing something in the house.
Fix something. Like
I'll find things to fix.
I'm like, I go around and I go to Home Depot and I go, okay, I need to buy more light bulbs. So I stock up on light bulbs. Or I need to buy this. I'm going to buy extra so I can have like a hardware store in my garage just in case I need it. And I like being able to go to the garage and get a pipe or something to install a new sink or what have you. I like to be able to do that, but it is good for your good for your soul to go out there and do manual labor.
Yeah.
Like dig a hole.
Yeah.
Right. When we first moved into our house, the first thing that I did, because I've just been driving and going into meetings, it's like, man, I need to just expel some energy. So I put in a 200-foot zip line. So I got these huge telephone poles in town, and
the ground here is,
dude, it's like rocks,
clay, bro.
right?
It's freaking
hit
clay.
But you know what? So I had these telephone poles cut down, and I understand enough engineering to get into trouble or to make something somewhat safe as well. But I dug these 4-foot diameter holes, and I dug 32 inches down, just enough to be below the frost line. Bro, that was brutal. And then I set these posts in myself, and then I put over 1,500 pounds of concrete, and it felt good, like digging and and I did that all by myself. Now, if I got into trouble, like I couldn't lift anything, but I was like, dude, I'm a resourceful guy. I was able to, attach different levers and pulleys and come alongs to certain things to help me out. But I enjoyed like solving the problem, like the physical problem of hoisting up these poles and then lifting these 80-pound bags of concrete and then mixing them and then pouring them in the hole and then saying that, yeah, man, look what I just did. And then stringing the cable from one pole to the other and then putting the zip line mechanism on and then testing it.
Ooh, that was scary, right?
Well, dude, I'm skimming on the ground. I'm like, okay, I need to tension this a little bit more. And
okay, so how can you, as a person, as a man, how can you be strong in the Lord and in His strength and in His might? I mean, can you share, if you're able, how does that work for you?
Yeah, man, you just gotta die to yourself. So I die. I'm not good enough. Now, people say like, well, why are you being so self-deprecating? Well, here's the thing. I've got you. The Lord says you first have to hate yourself in order to follow me.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't really mean like hate yourself, like you start calling yourself names. You're so stupid, or don't do that kind of crap. But he says you must hate yourself. Die. It's like die to yourself. Right. Be poor in the spirit. Right. And say, you know what? I don't have the answers because I've only been on this God's good creation for how long? And how long has the Lord existed? Forever, right? How about, Ad, why don't you shut up, dude? Why don't you meditate and get in the Word and pray and say, Lord, will you present something to me to how to get through this? Or embrace also what I've learned to do as a kid, right? Is embrace hardships. And I realized, and this is an amazing thing, I'm very fortunate when I was a little kid to realize this and actually appreciate it, is no matter what the temperature of my heart is or my circumstances, I can always change my mind, right? I think that was like, man, I felt like that was so manly, right? To be able to no matter what my feelings are towards a certain situation, it could be awful, to change my mind on it, right? So for example, driving up to Aspen, with a very expensive cargo in my trailer in a blizzard on I-70, and then all of a sudden one of my tires blows, right? And I start spinning out and going, it's gnarly. It's like white knuckling, right? And then I have to get out in a blizzard while cars are just flying and just oblivious to me, and then change my tire in the truck in a blizzard. And it's cold. It's just going against my face, and it's stinging, right? And it sucks. This sucks. And then you gotta laugh at it. And go, this is awesome. Yeah, this sucks so good, right? And that's what you do. You're like, this is such bull crap, right? And then but what happens is you have a cool story, and then you realize, oh my gosh, that just made me stronger. And then you did it, and you feel accomplished, and you feel like a man because you're just in a crappy situation that sucked, and it was uncomfortable, and you felt scared because cars are barreling down the highway, and they can slide and kill you, right? There's a lot going on in sync like that. Mm-hmm. But no matter what the temperature is outside or what's in my heart or what's going on in my mind, I have the ability to change my mind on that situation. Now, how I learned that very early on as a kid is I hated getting up in the morning for school. Mm-hmm. I love sleeping. It was so good. But I had my mom wake me up, and I would go into my bathroom all groggy. And I look in the mirror and I just like be hating the world. Like, oh, this is so bad. I hate this. But I'm such a weirdo. I'm such a weird guy. I remember looking in the mirror and giving myself a stupid face, right? Like distorting my face, like, bleh, right? And then, but it did. It's like changing my mind on what so the temperature of my heart was like, oh, this is awful. But I changed my mind and put myself in a different situation, and I gave myself a silly face in the mirror, and that changed my attitude, right? And I think I'm like, wow, I can change, and that became kind of a game for me. Growing up, like, okay, this sucks right now. Let's see if I can like be counter to what's going on right now. And
I like that you're trying to keep a handle at your mindset, so you can be strong in that situation and not let that ugly or uncomfortable situation take the best of you. Right? You're just changing your mindset right at that moment. So it does not affect you mentally, but at the same time, you're becoming mentally strong, because now you are one of those people that are dangerous in a way, because now they know how to tame and control their feelings, their minds, their mindset at that specific point.
Now, I don't want to mislead people, like, because you're making it sound like wow, I'm like a sensei. I'm a master. No, dude, I get, the flesh gets the best of me like a lot of the times, and my wife and children can attest to that. And as a Christian, we should be able to control our tongue. Guess what, dude? I can't sometimes. I mean, it's like it just comes out, and some really horrible language comes out of my mouth sometimes when I think I'm alone, or like, oh, you're such an idiot. And my wife's like, who's an idiot? I'm like, me. I'm an idiot. Right? Because I do something stupid, right? But you know what? But those are like quick things in the moment types of things. I think I'm obviously, I can activate that level of self-control, or that the way of changing my mind. Like if it's like, all right, this is a crappy situation, this isn't, or I'm having a really uncomfortable conversation with someone. Right, or I notice that they're throwing darts at me. Right, this comes back to, like, we had to talk a while ago about discernment, like realizing when someone is trying to throw darts at you or trying to pick that fight. It's like, okay, let's be counter to how I feel about darts being thrown at me, and maybe I can just start doing this instead. But because what's funny, right, is it throws the other person off, but it throws the situation off of what it's trying to intend. It throws the enemy off of what it's trying to do to you, right? It's like I'm gonna trip this person, and but if you trip and then you fall like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, remember that?
I never liked that movie.
Not the one with Johnny Depp. That one was weird. The one with oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I loved him, Gene Wilder. Oh my gosh, Gene Wilder was great. But like, so there's this scene where he's going down the to greet all these little kids that got the golden ticket, and he's walking. Then all of a sudden he gets his cane stuck, and then he falls forward, and then he does a roll. And so people think like, oh my gosh, he's gonna fall, and then he does this really incredible roll, and then he goes ta-da, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like doing that. It's like.
But that's going back to controlling.
Yeah, self-control.
What's going on with you at that moment. And I think, I like to expand on that, because, many men, they just don't know. They just don't know how to control themselves in circumstances. They're men that they're going through very difficult situations, mentally, physically, and they cannot make a decision on their own to say, I'm in the craps, I'm going to get up and I'm going to push forward as much as I can with whatever strength that I have. And mentally, I'm going to push through no matter what. Yeah. And I'm going to fall again 3 days later, but I'm going to get up again and I'm going to keep going. But there's many men out there that they just want to stay on that hole.
It's easier, right? Just to die.
Stay in the pain and wrestle with that situation constantly, complaining, crying. I'm like, dude, okay, I get it. It's rough.
Well, that's what babies do, right?
Get in the closet, do your crying. Now get out of the closet and go fight.
Yeah, or like, yeah.
Because I'm not saying that crying is wrong. On the contrary, yeah, we men have feelings, and we need to need to be able to let it out, but we need to be able to control it.
Yeah, but we can't.
We need to control that. We need to tame that.
Oh, dude.
So we can be dangerous.
Preach, brother. I mean, dude, so often our feelings control us, right? And we become these stupid guys.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, look at
how do you do that? I think that you are able to somehow control yourself in situations, or control your mind, or change your mind and engage those gears and go all in. I think you have that characteristic, which I admire.
Well,
for example, last year, whatever, you were losing a ton of weight and you were very diligent and you were at it, and I was trying to, and I'm like, crap, I wish I can control myself and be diligent as you are sometimes, but you're good at that. Are going through it and enduring the pain and being able to be mentally prepared for that situation and go through the obstacles no matter what, right?
Well,
so how do you, like, if somebody's listening, and what I'm going is like, how can you provide value to those men who are trying to be diligent, that are trying to get out of that hole, or go through that pain, but at the same time take steps towards that new them at this point? What would you say to them?
Well, first, thanks for recognizing. That's kind of cool. So let's just give a little bit of background of being able to change your mind on something. I never really was afraid of getting my butt kicked, right? Or afraid of pain. I don't like it, and I think people, their natural propensity is to avoid pain at all costs. But I don't try to avoid it. You kind of just go in head first, and I just remember being a little kid, you know what? I just gotta do this. So I remember being, I don't know how old I was. I mean, I think I was a little kid, and I went to go skiing with my mom, and my mom is just an incredible skier, and we were in Mammoth, California, and we were up on the cornice. We take the gondola up on the cornice, and the cornice, for those that don't know, it's this really steep double X black diamond, and you have to jump off a ledge that's 10 feet onto vertical terrain, and it's gnarly. And I was a little kid doing this, and my mother thought it was a good idea to bring it up. Mainly, I kind of wanted a little bit of the clout and to push myself. But she took me up there, and the wind was just howling. And I remember my mom put her skis on, and I was about to complain about the situation. No one else was up there with us, and all of a sudden, I lose her off the top, and she already went started skiing. Oh my gosh, man! I was screaming, I was swearing as a kid to my mom. I'm like, oh my God. Put any expletive in there, and I said it, and I was so mad at her. I was fuming, and I said, "Well, I can't go back down the gondola because I won't. I had a fear of not meeting up with my mom again, and I'll be lost. And then I also had a fear of dying, falling to my death.
Right.
And so I remember to go, you know what, you freaking do it, man. And I was pissed, and I strapped in my skis, and I went to the ledge. And I was terrified. I'm looking down. I was like, this is gnarly. But I was more angry at the situation and at my mother. And I remember launching off that 10-foot ledge and I just started skiing down. I'm like, I got to get to her as fast as I can so I can just yell at her, right? And I skied down as fast as I can. And I got to her at the very bottom. And I said, why did you leave me up there? What did you just do? And they said, hey, Adam, look up what you just did. And I looked up, I'm like, holy crap, I just skied down that. And so, but I also remember another situation when I was a senior in high school, and we went to this wrestling tournament in Poway. And this is when I was wrestling 215s. And I was actually 205. I couldn't cut any more weight to go down to 189s, right? I just had zero fat to cut. And so I was wrestling up to 215s, 10 pounds more than I was. And at that weight, you're either like wrestling fat kids or you're wrestling like gnarly Goliath kind of guys, right? Or guys in your situation. Right. So I remember going to my fourth match, and this dude from Poway, he was like 6'6", and you can tell the dude cut down to 215s. Like it struggled for him to cut down to 215s. Shaved head. He had muscles upon muscles on his scalp, right? And he just looked terrifying. Mm-hmm. And I look over at my coach, and he kind of shrugs, like, "Oh, good luck to you, buddy." And then I look over to my dad, and my brothers there too, and they're like, "Oh my gosh." And I remember telling to myself, just don't get pinned, dude. This is going to hurt so bad. I think some people like look at these situations and kind of run away. But I'm like, you know what, dude, you're going to get your butt kicked. It's going to hurt really bad.
Well, you're already in it.
Yeah, it's like
how bad is going to look if you start running?
Oh my gosh. All right. So my brother is actually relaying his view of the match over the weekend last weekend to me, which was really funny, right? Because he brought up a point that I think I chose to forget. So I'm in this match with this guy, and he's pummeling my head. And pummeling is when you do like circles and you're hitting a guy's head. And I remember my right eye getting stuck inside my socket, right? And I'm disoriented. But the dude didn't pin me. I got takeaway points. Now, the point that my brother brought up to me is like, there was one time he took me down, and I went to escape. Right, and you get escape points, and I went to escape, but the dude grabbed me by my legs and dragged me like a little rag doll, like a little. Oh my gosh, man!
So you were in the mat.
I was in the mat.
You're trying to get out of the mat because you're trying to do the escape, right?
No, I was
out of him.
Away from him.
Away from him, right. And
then
he grabs your leg and he pulls you closer to him.
Yes.
So for those who are listening, so you can picture exactly what's going on in a wrestling match.
So hold on, let me. I'm on my belly. We're wrestling towards the ring, the outer part of the ring, right? And he doesn't want for us to go back to neutral because if one guy goes out of bounds,
right, you got to start again.
Then he's got to start again.
Right.
So he didn't want me to like roll out of bounds, and I don't know if my mind like, oh, let's get out of bounds, right? Maybe I was, but the dude grabbed my legs and he pulled me in, right? But you know what? My goal was that not to get pinned.
Right.
And guess what? I didn't get pinned.
I see.
And I got my butt kicked. But, that's what I realized, again, like being a badass or being tough, right? Being tough wasn't about being able to beat someone up and dominate someone. Being tough was getting your butt handed to you and getting back up again. And I think that's what really being a man is about, is like, how do you deal with adversity? How do you like go in there, like just go in there? It's going to hurt, dude. And you may lose, right? But you're going to come out alive and have an incredible story. And then you're going to have callbacks with friends and family. And really what's important for me is what kind of story, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? If you were up in heaven, and let's just say there's a bunch of VHS tapes of your whole life, of everyone's life, what movie do people want to watch? Right? No one likes a movie where everything's easy, right? There's got to be some drama, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be funny moments of like being dragged into the center of the ring and being some guy's little boy, right? But there's so many stories like this. There's so many things of like, Aiden, and I can talk about stories where we were in the grit and it sucked. But we had to finish, and it totally sucked, and it took all day, and it was painstaking. But you know what? That pain that I was in with my son made us closer together, and that's why like people in battle that's why there's this brotherhood, right?
Yeah, I mean, in closing, I think it is safe to say and important to understand for those who are listening. We all gonna have to tackle situations that are uncomfortable in our lives. We all gonna be in situations where we're gonna suffer. So we're gonna go through suffering. We're gonna endure pain, and we're gonna most likely put ourselves in those situations. Most of the time, the majority of the time it's all self-inflicted. But how do we get out of this situation? And I think that's gonna be the story that is worth telling somebody. And I think one, having the right men around you, I think is of much importance. Two, setting up your mindset on the things of God and knowing that God is for you and He's with you. He's not against you. And even in the trials and the struggles, we still need to be able to get up and take steps of faith towards a resolution of the issue that we're having.
Yeah, and realize that the greatest man to ever live died for you.
That's right.
Willingly.
That's right.
Willingly went to pain, went and got scourged, had a crown of thorns smashed over his head, had nails driven through his hands and his feet, and bled for you, right? Bled for you. Willingly went to that pain and suffered just so you can be saved. So if you want to say, hey, what does a man look like? Right? Look to Jesus.
Yeah, that's a man for you. And He said at the end, it is finished. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And if this content is helpful to you, would you consider rating this episode and subscribe to the podcast? This episode was sponsored by Cyricom Tech, your virtual IT department. Cyricom Tech provides cybersecurity services, cloud services, IT support, infrastructure build, phone systems integrations, and much more. With more than 25 years of experience in the enterprise, Cyricom Tech is here to serve you. You can book a free consultation by calling 720-819-7388. Also on the web at cyricomtech.com. That is SIRECOM tech.com. Until the next episode, God bless you.